But for some owners, keeping the doors open has become a struggle. A mid-year restaurant report shows more than 1,000 restaurants have closed across the state so far this year.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's going on?
At Rennie's Bar and Grill in Dallas, Mark McGuire is right at home, laughing, talking, and checking in with customers.
I like the way you snack with the lemon drop martinis, huh?
Gin.
McGuire has been in the restaurant business for more than 40 years. And for him, this isn't just a business, it's family.
Rennie is my dad. That's where the name of the restaurant came from.
McGuire's dad didn't just inspire the name, he helped shape the personality of the place.
He's like the mayor of the place. He walks in and says hello to everybody, wants to stop and talk to everybody.
But behind the laughs and smiles, McGuire says running a restaurant has never felt more uncertain.
What we've seen in the last really 6 to 10 months has definitely put a knot in my stomach.
This business owner is far from alone. Restaurant data reports more than 1,000 restaurant closures in Texas during the first half of 2026. The Texas Restaurant Association says one of the biggest challenges is the rising operating cost.
Food costs are up 35% since the pandemic. Wages are up about 30%.
And it's not just restaurant owners feeling the squeeze. Customers are paying more too.
We are struggling to try to find ways to keep our prices on our menus stable.
For McGuire, higher costs for food and labor weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. Last summer, they nearly forced him to shut down.
We were close to having to make a decision of whether we thought we could keep our doors open or not. Luckily, we just kind of had a really good foundation of regular, supportive customers.
That support helped keep Rennie's open. But there's another side of the story.
Texas is also far and away leading the nation when it comes to restaurant openings.
In fact, 391 new restaurants opened across Texas in July alone. Stats like that keep Mark going.
Gives me confidence that if people are still wanting to open restaurants, they're seeing opportunities there and they're seeing demand there.
For now, Rennie's Bar and Grill stays open. And McGuire,
we're happy to have you. Thanks for coming up.
Hopes to keep it that way.
McGuire salad with the salmon.
Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to entitle this one, Texas leads nation in restaurant closures. Texas leads the nation in restaurant closure, going into an article that recently just popped up in the algorithm, how pretty much all these restaurants here in Texas are closing down. And what is the reason why it's closing down? Mainly because of inflation, the purchasing power of the dollar is going down, which ultimately that's what inflation is, but also the rising prices of all these different stuff, ingredients, beef, chicken, lamb, all the produce, eggs, bread, the seasoning, spices, and also restaurants having to pay more for their rent, their electricity, their workers having to pay their workers. But also, what's the main reason is because people don't have that disposable income to spend. Why? Because this system is in a controlled demolition, and who is ultimately allowing this demolition to happen is Esau Edom, the cerebral-claimed white man, because he's allowing to put that squeeze on these people, upon these Americans, these Babylonians, because what is he about to do? He's about to bring in that great reset. And for that to happen, this economy has to collapse. That's why you see restaurants, bars, music venues. Nobody's going to the movies like that. Nobody's going out like that. Yeah, you still have people, going out to these restaurants on the weekend. So that illusion is there, like, okay, it's not so bad. People love to say that when they see people out and about. But really, there's another article where it said that majority of people don't have $500 in savings, letting you know that these Americans are through as hell out here, because they have these high-ass mortgages. They have these high-ass car notes. All these gadgets trying to keep up with the Joneses, because this is what America is all about. It's about putting that illusion that you got it. And yeah, you still got some millionaires, multi-millionaires, they may got it, but for the most part, the working class, they're living paycheck to paycheck. But that's all by design, because Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, he's about to collapse the dollar. He's about to collapse the system so he can bring in his new world order. So I'm gonna get this first precept, and I'll put up that video about the article. It says, Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 3, in a day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. Because what is the grinding season going into? Is about all these jobs firing people, laying people off, laying them off because of automation, because of artificial intelligence taking over, especially these white collar jobs, but some jobs are still quote unquote AI proof. For example, blue collar jobs, welders, plumbers, electricians. But ultimately that's not going to matter, because when Esau, Edom collapses the dollar, everybody's going to feel it. Everybody's going to be back in that $0 range, because you still got a lot of people that are doing pretty well for themselves, especially our people, the so-called Negroes, Latino, and Native Americans. We're trying to true Israelites. You got some of our own people doing better than Esau, Edom, which is the self-proclaimed white man in his own kingdom. But yet that don't matter, because even if you still got it like that, the system is still on the way out. It's still going to collapse, because it's all by design. So majority of people have that gloomy look in their face, that sorrowful look on their countenance, because they know that this through, but they still going on, playing with the illusion, getting along, with the people, faking a smile, howdy neighbor, good morning. It's all fake, because these people know that this place is through, but they still got to go to work. They still got to, even us, we still got to go to work to get our daily bread, to pay our bills. But we know that once it's time to leave this place behind, when it's time to let go of these jobs, because that's what's right around the corner too, is the mass implementation of the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. So all these people that think that America is going to continue, is not. All the signs are pointing towards the downfall of this kingdom, the downfall of this society, the downfall of this economy. It says, verse 4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And that's what's happening. All these doors from these different businesses, they're closing down. Why? Because we're on the verge of an economic collapse, but yet people are still rushing to get to work, still rushing to get here and there when this system is through. But really the main reason why these people are still moving like that, because this is their livelihood. This is all they know. They think that this is the end all be all. But that's why they put all their energy, their time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into their job, into their career, because they think that, oh man, this is as good as it gets. But ultimately this place is done and it's through. And it says, and the daughters of music shall be brought low. Nobody's going to these music venues no more. These music concert shows, because the music is trash. All this music that is put out on a weekly basis, daily basis, is all trash. Because Yahweh Bashem El Shai is taking the mirth out of America, Babylon the Great, and out of this kingdom. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 14. And it reads, and the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai had mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggered in his vomit. Because you see how these people are moving, they're crashing out, they're ready to crash out and put each other to death. And what is it going to take for people to finally crash out? It's going to be when the lack of food happens, when that food supply gets cut off. And you already got people experiencing that in Indiana, Gary, Indiana. They haven't had any power for days. That's all a test run for Jacob, because it's already basically Jacob's trouble. But once it happens in these major cities, New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, Houston, that's when people are really going to lose it, because all these people think that life is all about working. No, and then you get the weekends off. You know, they drink themselves to death, or there's another report where people aren't even drinking no more. And what are they doing? They're on all these other drugs. They're on weed, crack, meth, and all these different pills, on a cough syrup. You know, they're vaxxed up. So these people are through as hell out of here. How about Shmuel Shai is not dealing with America? He's not going to heal America, because you got these waggy-taggy Christians talking about, oh man, God loves America. We're just going through a rough period, but he's going to heal it. No. How about Shmuel Shai's will is to destroy America out of the planet Earth. But before that happens, he's going to plague it just like he did Egypt. He's going to plague it with locust. You know, you already got flying ticks. You already got crops drying, lack of rain, explosive diarrhea. You know, all these different pestilences. It says, verse 15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt. And this is talking about spiritual Egypt, like it says in the book of Revelation, chapter 11. And what is spiritual Egypt? Is America, Babylon the Great. It says, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. And that's what's happening. Everybody's losing their jobs. They're getting laid off. They're not making ends meet. They're having to work 3-4 different jobs, do Uber and Lyft on the side. Why? Because people can't afford their bills. They can't afford their rent. They can't afford groceries. Very soon they're not going to be able to afford to put gas in their tank, because gas is already $4 or $5 in some places, $6 in California. Eventually it's going to get to the point where people are going to say to hell with paying $10 for a gallon of gas. People are just going to lose it. And that's what's going to lead to all hell breaking loose, because of the lack of bread. This is Isaiah 24 and verse 4. It says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. And that's what's happening. The pride of these people is being brought down. You know, especially these self-proclaimed white people, these Edomites, the descendants of Esau, that were proud as all hell, thinking that they were never going to feel the curses. Now they're the main ones crying out on TikTok, on social media, talking about, I can't make my rent. All I do is work to live. Yeah, motherfucker, you about to go into slavery. But then you got Jake, you know, they've been catching hell since forever. You know, Jake is used to it, but Jake is comfortable because Esau gave him a job. He allowed him to vote. He allowed him to go to college, to university. He allows him to travel. So our people are in that, you know, settled on their leads. They're comfortable. But what's about to happen? An economic collapse. It's going to lead to all hell breaking loose. You know, but people are still feeling that squeeze. That's why they're sighing and crying. They can feel that, you know, the future isn't certain, because that's exactly what it is. America, Babylon the Great, doesn't have long. It doesn't have no 250 more years, 200 years, 100 years. No, this place is done for. It's through. You know, you got America breaking up with a NATO. You know, going into that scripture, the beast shall hate the whore. So the only thing that's in store for America is the Third World War, which eventually is going to go nuclear. But before that happens, this economy, this system, this society as a whole has to collapse. It has to fall, and that's what's happening. We're on the verge of the collapse of America, Babylon the Great. And that's why these people feel it in their spirit, but they're trying to fake the funk. They're trying to fake a smile, when really deep inside they know that this place is through. But Yahweh Shmuel Shai has them in that delusion that, oh man, maybe if I keep going to work, if I keep trusting in Trump, he's gonna make America great again. But no, Trump is doing the complete opposite of what he said he was gonna do. That he was gonna put more money in people's pockets. He was gonna lower their taxes. He was gonna lower inflation, lower gas money, end all wars, give them another stimulus check, when he's doing the complete opposite. So this is the book of Haggai, chapter 1, and verse 6. It says, ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it in a bag with holes, because what happens as soon as you get your paycheck, or before you get your paycheck, everybody else gets a cut. The small hats, the tiny caps get a cut, the government gets a cut, and you got Jake on child support, Eve, their baby mama gets a cut, everybody gets a cut, and then who's the last one to get the crumbs of that paycheck? Is these Americans, these Babylonians. Because you got your net pay, and then you got your gross pay. Say you made $2,000 a paycheck, and then boom, once you get that final pay, what is it? Boom, they took out $700 in taxes, and you're not getting that back, with the whole income tax, and you got to pay more taxes. Taxes on top of taxes. You pay your mortgage off, now you got to pay property taxes. You pay your car off, you got to make sure it's registered every single year. You got to keep up with the oil, with all these different maintenance. So it's all hell. We're in hell, but yet our people, the nation of Israel, want to stay here forever. But that's not going to be the case, because Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is wrapping his kingdom up. Because ultimately we're here as a punishment, as a lesson for sinning against Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, allowing Esau, Edom, the basis of all men, just a self-proclaimed white man, to rule over us. But that time is just about up. That little season of his devil, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man ruling, is just about up. That's why he's moving like that, because he knows that his system is through. That's why you have all these different heathens closing up shop. These Chinese restaurants closing down, Indian hotels closing down. You got all these Arab gas stations closing down, because they know that this place is through. The only ones who can't see it, that are still chasing the bag, trying to get the money, is our own people. But that's why Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is just going to leave the 2/3 of our people here in America to be burnt up, because they don't got it. They don't know what's about to happen. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 7, and it reads, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. And that's why America is collapsing, because once all these so-called allies were with America, China, these different Arab countries, these European countries, now they see that America is full of shit, that ultimately it doesn't have their best interest. It only has the best interests of the small hats, the tiny caps, and made it, it imposed its philosophies, its democracy, its petrodollar, based off its military force, the sword. But now that the countries are seeing, hey man, America's not what it used to be. It's not that same hammer of the earth. So what are the nations saying? Like the scripture says, let the weak say I'm strong. That's why Iran is kicking America's ass. That's why all these countries are dumping $1. Because they can see the writing on the wall that America is done. It's not that same superpower that it used to be. So that's why all these countries, they're saying to hell with America. Whenever we're allies with the U.S., with America, Babylon the Great, it doesn't benefit us anymore. It only benefited the U.S. and the nation of Israel, the small hats, the tiny caps, the 48ers, the imposters. That's why all these different countries, they're ready to fight America, because America, all it does is take, and it doesn't give back. The only thing it gives is bullets, missiles, bombs. It says, verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, which is a healing ointment, if so she may be healed. So this whole Donald Trump make America great again, it was all a lie to get these people to buy in, to vote. Oh man, okay, he's gonna get up in there, he's gonna fix everything, he's gonna end all wars. Here this dude, this guy started a whole nother war, talking about it's gonna be 2 weeks long, and we're 7 to 8 months in. Completely affecting the whole world and its economies. So this is why America's gonna get those intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's the only thing that's promised for America. Not no healing, not know, I mean, these restaurants are going to open back up, these venues and all these different businesses are going to bounce back up. Food processing plants, they're going to open back up. No. All these different businesses are closing down because ultimately America is wrapping up. This kingdom of Esau, Edom is wrapping up. It's already written, that America is destroyed. All it has to do is play it out in the 3D. It says, verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. That's Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua being sarcastic. It says, forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. That's why you see these different heathens closing up shop, because they know that this place is through. They made their money. They came over here. They got the loans. They made their bread. Now it's okay. It's time. They can see that this place is through. It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. And that's what's about to happen. America is about to be destroyed by thermal, nuclear, intercontinental ballistic missiles that are going to utterly destroy the land of America. That's going to create what the Bible describes as the lake of fire. That's the only thing that's going to come to America. It's going to be utter destruction, not no healing, not no it's going to bounce back, it's going to get good. No, it's not. Because ultimately Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua already spoke the word that this place is about to be destroyed. But before that happens, it's being plagued by all these different pestilences, these different plagues, the sword, famine. That's why you have all these restaurants closing down, these businesses, because that's what happened in ancient Egypt. It was plagued before that final plague happened, which was the death of the firstborn. At that point, Egypt fell, and that's what's happened to America as well. It's being plagued before Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua destroys it out of the face of the planet Earth. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this was edifying and informative to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from him who grew well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom.